Together. Narayanam namaskrityam janam chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nestiki. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adigaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It's a little. Should I turn my chair? It's. Oh yeah, I think I should turn a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I think that's better. Thank you. This morning we'll be reading from Canto 3, Chapter 32, verses 22 to 36. Before we begin reading these verses, these translations, can someone give us a brief introduction of where we are? What is the scene? What's going on in this setting right now? Kapil Dev is instructing his mother, yes. And what exactly is he talking about in this chapter? Or what did we discuss yesterday? Fruitive activities. He's instructing his mother regarding fruitive activities. And yeah, so this is the 8th chapter of the teachings of Lord Kapil Dev. His teachings go on for 8 long chapters in the 3rd canto of Bhagavatam, 25 to 32, 33, I think, 32, yeah, 24 to 32. So those 8 chapters are the teachings of Lord Kapil Dev, and he instructs his mother on a variety of different subjects, topics, jnana, yoga, bhakti, karma. He also talks about the development of the child in the womb, the development of species, and a lot of varieties of different subjects. And now in this chapter, finally he's coming to a conclusion. He's ending his teachings at this chapter, and especially with these verses that we are going to discuss today. And earlier in this chapter, before verse number 22, he describes fruitive activities and the destination of fruitive workers. Can someone briefly explain what is fruitive activity, or who is a fruitive worker? Kaylee?
Hare Krishna. I guess the easiest definition is like a karma person, one who's engaged in activity expecting some result. Expecting some result. Any activity done with the expectation of result is fruitive activity, because activity and then it's fruitive, means you expect some fruit, some result. So yes, fruitive activity is simply anything that we do, any karma with the desire of a certain fruit with a certain result is fruitive activity. And earlier in this chapter, Kapil Dev condemns
fruitive activity. He says that how he explains the futility of fruitive activities, and he explains that how actions performed with attachment to the body, to one's family, to one's surroundings, how any activity done with attachment to that is ultimately, it's a fruitive activity and it's ultimately useless, because whatever result you get from those fruitive activities is exhausted in due course of time. And we see this in this world many times. Whatever we do to achieve something, it's not permanent. We may do exercise to keep the body fit, to look in a certain way, and then that goes away. Even if you continue maintaining your exercise, but with age your body will shrivel down. There are a number of examples how fruitive activities or anything done to get a result does not stay. It ultimately vanishes or goes away. So what's the point in even endeavoring for fruitive results? So that is the point of that Kapil Dev makes. And he also touches upon the destination of yogis. He says how yogis, after many, many years of practice, merge into the body of Lord Brahma. And then when Brahma is liberated after millions, billions of years, then they finally merge into the body of the Supreme Lord. So even that is futile. Why waste time just to merge into the body of the Lord when you can have an active, loving relationship with Him? So now he's coming to the conclusion of his teachings. We will take turns to read translations for texts 22 to 36, and then we will elaborate on text number 22.
With so many texts, may I suggest we read like 2 each?
Okay.
Just to speed up a little bit.
Sounds
My
good.
dear mother, I therefore advise that you take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for His lotus feet are worth worshipping. Accept this with all devotion and love, for this you can be situated in transcendental devotional service. Engagement in Krishna consciousness and application of devotional service unto Krishna make it possible to advance in knowledge and detachment, as well as in self-realization.
The exhalated devotee's mind becomes equipoised in sensory activities, and he is transcendental to that which is agreeable and not agreeable. Because of his transcendental intelligence, the pure devotee is equipoised in his vision and sees himself to be uncontaminated by matter. He does not see anything as superior or inferior, and he feels himself elevated to the transcendental platform of being equal in qualities with the Supreme Person.
Wonderful. Thank you.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete transcendental knowledge, but according to the different processes of understanding, He appears differently either as impersonal Brahman, as Paramatma, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as the Purusha Avatar. The greatest common understanding for all yogis is complete detachment from matter, which can be achieved by different kinds of yoga.
28. Those who are adverse to the transcendence realize the Supreme Absolute Truth differently through speculative sense perception, and therefore, because of mistaken speculation, everything appears to them to be relative. From the total energy, the Mahat Tattva, I have manifested the false ego, the 3 modes of material nature, the 5 material elements, the individual consciousness, the 11 senses, and the material body. Similarly, the entire universe has come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Text 30. This perfect knowledge can be achieved by a person who is already engaged in devotional service with faith, steadiness, and full detachment, and who is always absorbed in thought of the Supreme. He is aloof from material association. My dear respectful mother, I have already described the path of understanding the absolute truth, by which one can come to understand the real truth of matter and spirit and their relationship.
Philosophic research culminates in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After achieving this understanding, when one becomes free from the material modes of nature, he attains the stage of devotional service, either by devotional service directly or by same philosophical research. From one has to find the same destination, which is the Supreme Personality of.
Amazing.
A single object is appreciated differently by different senses due to its having different qualities. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, but according to different scriptural injunctions, he appears to be different. By performing fruitive activities and sacrifices, by distributing charity, by performing austerities, by studying various literatures, by conducting philosophical research, by controlling the mind, by subduing the senses, by accepting the renounced order of life, and by performing the prescribed duties of one's social order, by performing the different divisions of yoga practice, by performing devotional service, and by exhibiting the process of devotional service containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, by understanding the science of self-realization, and by developing a strong sense of detachment. One who is expert in understanding the different processes of self-realization realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is represented in the material world as well as in transcendence.
Thank you. Let's go to verse 32. Verse 22. Tasmat tvam sarva bhavena bhajasva parameshtinam tadgunashrayaya bhaktya bhajaniya padambujam tasmat tvam sarva bhavena bhajasva parameshtinam tadgunashrayaya bhaktya bhajaniya padambujam. Tasmat tvam sarva bhavena bhajasva parameshtinam tadgunashrayaya bhaktya bhajaniya padambujam. Tasmat tvam sarva bhavena bhajasva parameshtinam Tadgunashrayaya bhaktya bhajaniya padambujam tasmatvam sarva bhavena bhajasva paramesthinam Tadgunashrayaya bhaktya bhajaniya padambujam. Synonyms. Together. Tasmat, therefore, tvam, you, Devahuti, sarva bhavena, with loving ecstasy, bhajasva, worship, paramesthinam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Tat Guna, the qualities of the Lord, Ashrayaya, connected with, Bhaktya, by devotional service, Bhajaniya, worshipable, Padambujam, whose lotus feet. Translation together. My dear mother, I therefore advise that you take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for his lotus feet are worth worshipping. Accept this with all devotion and love, for thus you can be situated in transcendental devotional service. Would someone like to read the purport?
The word paramestinam is sometimes used in connection with Brahma. Paramesti means the Supreme Person. As Brahma is the Supreme Person within the universe, within this universe, Krishna is the Supreme Personality in the spiritual world. Lord Kapilya Dev advises his mother that she should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, because it is worthwhile. Taking shelter of demigods, even those in the highest positions like Brahma and Shiva, is not advised herein. One should take shelter of the Supreme Godhead. Sarva Bhavana means in loving ecstasy. Bhava is the preliminary stage of elevation before the attainment of pure love of Godhead. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha. One who has attained the stage of Bhava can accept the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna as worshipful. This is also advised herein by Lord Kapilya to his mother. Also significant in this verse is the phrase Tad Gunasraya Bhaktya. This means that discharging devotional service unto Krishna is transcendental. It is not material activity. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Those who engage in devotional service are accepted to be situated in the spiritual kingdom. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. They at once become situated in the transcendental kingdom. Devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is the only means for attaining the highest perfection of life for the human being. This is recommended herein by Lord Kapilya to his mother. Bhakti is therefore nirguna, free from all tinges of material qualities. Although the discharge of devotional service appears to be like material activities, it is never saguna, or contaminated by material qualities. Tad gunasaraya means that Lord Krishna's transcendental qualities are so sublime that there is no need to divert one's attention to any other activities. His behavior with the devotees is so exalted that the devotee need not try to divert his attention to any other worship. It is said that the demonic Putna came to kill Krishna by poisoning him, but because Krishna was pleased to suck her breast, she was given the same position as his mother. Devotees therefore pray that if a demon who wanted to kill Krishna gets such an exalted position, why should they go to any other than Krishna for their worshipable attachment? There are two kinds of religious activities, one for material advancement and the other for spiritual advancement. By taking shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna, one is endowed with both kinds of prosperity, material and spiritual. Why then should one go to any other demigod?
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is, like we discussed, the end of Lord Kapil Dev's teachings. Um, and what happens at the end of any episode in Bhagavatam?
Whoever reads this will get
The guna, the phal, shruti phal. Yes, but what any episode or any conversation or any teachings in Bhagavatam, what does it culminate in? What does it end in? Bhakti, yes. Be it Krishna's teachings to Uddhava, be it King Raghugana's pastime, be it any episode, any story in Bhagavatam, it all ends, culminates in Bhakti. And therefore, after 8 long chapters of teachings, like we discussed, Lord Kapil Dev touches on a variety of different topics, a variety of different paths, processes, and he also discusses the destination of those who follow those paths. Like we discussed, the fruitive workers fall down after exhausting the results of their activities. The yogis merge into the body of the Lord. Sometimes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he considered this merging into the body of the Lord so meaningless that when he was discussing the types of liberation, he used to leave out that 5th type of liberation. He just said 4. Samipya, Sarupya, Salokya, and what's the Sarasti, I think. 4. He leaves out the merging part because what's the point? After so much effort, all you have to do is merge into the body. When you can have an active, loving, beautiful relationship with Krishna, then why waste time? So, after all these teachings, Kapil Dev is now saying Tasmat. He begins Tasmat Tvam Sarva Bhavena. He's saying his mother. Tasmat means therefore. And he's saying, therefore, after explaining all this, and after, especially in this chapter earlier, he really expresses how the futility of fruitive action. And we hear this word so much, fruitive activity, fruitive work, but we don't really pay attention to it. And why is it so much discussed in the Shastra and scriptures? Because everything that we do, which is devoid of a thought of Krishna, is fruitive work. And we don't realize that. Anything we eat, anything we endeavor for, anything that we do, any activity is ultimately a fruitive activity if it is devoid of a thought of Krishna or if it is not for Krishna. And so therefore, Kapil Dev is expressing his deep concern for those people who do this fruitive work and who get lost in fruitive activity. And he's saying, my dear mother, don't be lost. Don't be lost in these processes, these paths. Therefore, he's saying, Tasmat. Therefore, Tvam Sarva Bhavena. Therefore, you Sarva Bhavena. Gather whatever emotion that you can possibly gather in your heart. Sometimes devotees don't feel emotions or feelings for the Lord. And recently, a very close friend in the community, he approached me and we were discussing about Shastra and reading. And he expressed himself confidentially. He said that, Prabhu, I want to tell you that when I come in front of the deities, or when I read books, or when I listen to Kirtan, I like it, it's nice, but he said, I cannot feel anything. He said, my heart is dry and I'm not able to feel any emotion. I'm not able to feel any bhav, any kind of emotion. It's just very dry for me. I'm in front of the deities. I see devotees crying. I see this nice shringar. I appreciate it, but I don't really feel any love. When I'm reading, I read these beautiful descriptions that devotees feel for Krishna, how they are crying for Krishna, how they are engaging their time, all their activities for Krishna. I read all this, but I don't feel anything. And he was really sincere in his expression. He said, I just don't feel anything. So what should I don't know what's my future in devotional life. And what do the acharyas say when we cannot feel anything? What do they? Yes, yeah, Kaylee, yeah.
I was thinking, often we don't feel, but that's the point of sadhana bhakti, is that even though we don't feel like going to Mangalarti, we still do it because it's discipline and because ultimately we know it's good for us.
You still do it as a matter of duty.
Hey Krishna, I also had a thought that this is really beautiful. Thanks for sharing this, by the way. That when someone prays like this, that they cannot feel, it usually comes from a place of they have felt before, so they know what it feels like to not feel also. But my understanding of what the acharyas say is that when we don't feel it, is to pray that we cannot like cry out that we cannot cry.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So I think it's more about surrendering to Krishna, and as you mentioned earlier, just everything we do is for Krishna. Is the bhava you keep bringing on over and over, and also share, like everyone went through the same stage where they initially were dry and then they get involved inside Krishna Bhakti and they start feeling the soul share that and by thinking about Krishna all the time, eventually that bhava, that devotion will come.
Right. So still keep doing, no matter what you feel, you still engage. There's a saying that the sun never fails to rise, no matter how it feels. So you still show up, no matter how you feel. You show up, you do your duty, you perform devotional service because that is required. It's a duty that we are doing. And also, I love what Kaylee said, and that's what I was looking for also. That when you cannot cry for Krishna, you should cry that you cannot cry for Krishna. That's what the acharyas say. And that's what Kapil Dev is saying, Tasmat Tvam Sarva Bhavena. Therefore, you gather whatever feelings you can possibly. Sarva Bhavena. Whatever is in your heart, whatever you can possibly gather that. And do what? Bhajaswa Parameshtinam. Worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sachinandan Swami says that in the initial stage, we offer broken names to Krishna. We offer, we don't have that feeling. We don't have that love for Krishna. We offer whatever we can. It's Krishna, this is all I have to offer. Please accept this. So that's what he's saying. Bhajasva Parameshtinam. Gather whatever you can and try to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And do what? Then, the third line, Tad Gunashrayaya Bhaktya. Now this is extremely important and this is amazing, beautiful. So gather whatever you can, therefore, and then worship the Supreme Lord. And do what? Tad Gunashrayaya. The Lord's guna, qualities, ashray, shelter. Take shelter of the qualities of the Lord, bhaktya, in devotion. Now, Srila Prabhupada in his purport writes that Tad Gunashrayaya means that Lord Krishna's transcendental qualities are so sublime that there is no need to divert one's attention to any other activities. Kapil Dev has just explained fruitive activities and the futility of it. And he's connecting it with the qualities of the Lord, that therefore try to increase your attachment, increase your interest in the qualities, pastimes of the Lord. And Prabhupada is explaining they are so sublime that there is no need to divert one's attention to any other activity. So the way to get out of fruitive activity or to get detached with fruitive work is to increase attachment towards the qualities of Krishna. That is the purport. In this world, we are usually very easily enamored and very easily attracted to the qualities of worldly people. Politicians, celebrities, athletes, world leaders, influencers, because that is all we have. When we don't have Krishna or spiritual knowledge, this is all we have to get attracted to, and then we get attracted to the qualities, the activities of these worldly people. So and so businessman purchased Twitter, so and so celebrity married for the 4th time, and all these types of news and stories. And Kapil Dev is saying, why do you want to waste your time? Why would you waste your consciousness in being attracted to or reading about these qualities, these stories of worldly people? Rather, it is better to engage your time in reading about Krishna and learning about Krishna, learning about the qualities of Krishna, reading about the stories of Krishna, because at least it will clean our heart. At least there will be some benefit. And also, he says, Prabhupada said that the transcendental qualities of Krishna are so sublime. They're so beautiful. Krishna, he's a perfect friend. He's acting as a servant of Arjuna when Arjuna needs him on the battlefield. He's a perfect husband. He's able to satisfy and he's able to love 16,108 wives. He's a perfect son. His parents are completely enamored, completely absorbed in his beautiful childhood pastimes. And so these qualities and these stories of Krishna are so wonderful, so beautiful, that they're not only pleasing to our senses and mind, but they also clean our heart. They also purify us. So therefore, tad gunashraya, take shelter of the qualities of Krishna. There is a question that may arise here, very important question, that we are taught in this movement to take shelter of the holy name, Namashraya. But Kapil Dev is saying Gunashraya. So what is the significance? Isn't Namashraya the topmost thing to do? Taking shelter of the holy name of the Lord, chanting the holy names of the Lord. Then why do we need to come down? Why do we need to, focus on or understand Gunashraya? So, yes, it's true that Namashraya, taking shelter of the holy names, is the most important. But in order to take shelter of the holy name, really, with our heart, we need to chant with absorption. We need to chant with depth. And that absorption comes by chanting attentively. But how will I chant attentively? Because my heart is dry and my mind is completely distracted in this world. So how can I chant attentively? And how can I chant with absorption? So Namashraya is not an easy process initially. My heart is devoid of love for Krishna. It is said that japa will become 2 hours of non-stop listening to your own mind if you are not chanting attentively. Japa will just be a mind chatter for those 2 hours. And therefore it is very important. Devotion, Prabhupada said chant 16 rounds and it takes about 2 hours. But the remaining 22 hours of your day is a preparation of those 2 hours. It is not that we do anything in those 22 hours and then we expect to chant good rounds in the rest 2 hours. It won't happen. What we do in those remaining 22 hours determines the quality of our chanting in those 2 hours, determine the quality of our absorption, attention. There is, it's like, when we invite a guest to our home and the guest comes and we do not offer respect, do not offer any service to that guest, then how would that guest feel? Rejected? Impersonal? And that is what we do every day with chanting, with the holy names. We begin chanting, we are inviting Krishna to our heart like a guest, and we don't pay attention. Like Krishna has entered now in your mind. He's here, but my mind is all over the place. My mind is on my work, on my family, on so many different things, everything apart from this guest that I myself have invited in my heart. And so that guest Krishna feels rejected, feels, I don't want to impose myself. If this person doesn't want to pay attention, I'll walk away. And this guest has not come empty-handed. He's come with a gift of prema, of love for God, love for himself. Krishna comes with that gift, but if we don't pay attention, how will we accept that gift? How will we receive that gift if our mind is elsewhere? So that is how we treat Krishna when we chant, and those impersonal tendencies show in our personal lives, also in our relationships, and it just expands in everything that we do, all our relationships. So how do we, what's the solution? How do we not chant mechanically? How do we chant with some love? It said that if you want to love someone, what is the process? What is the process of loving someone? How do you begin that? You have to know them. How do you begin to, how do you like someone? Thinking about that person. But what attracts you to that person in the first stage? Yes, Matt. Beauty, fame. You observe their qualities. Yes. So any person's qualities, right? You are the very first thing you're attracted to is their quality. It can be their beauty. It can be their the way they talk, their nature, anything. Any quality can attract you. So it is ultimately a quality of a person that attracts you. And then when you meditate on, like Prabhupada said, when you meditate on those qualities, you spend time with them, gradually you develop love for them. And it is the same in devotional life, in spiritual life, that initially we have to be attracted to the qualities of Krishna, and therefore tad gunashraya, take shelter of the qualities of Krishna before namashraya, before taking shelter of the name. We can take shelter of the name when we are in love with the person, but before that we need to be attracted. And if we don't have attraction to Krishna, then how can we expect to chant good rounds? And how do we develop that attachment? By reading about his qualities, his pastimes, his stories, his activities, how he deals with everyone around him, how he performs his activities, how he lives, how he conducts himself. All these beautiful, beautiful qualities of Krishna. When we know more about them, when we focus on them, when we take shelter of the qualities, then we can expect that maybe someday some feeling will arise in the heart, and then we can chant with some attention. In one japa seminar, His Holiness Sachinandan Swami, he said that one should chant with affectionate respect. The Sanskrit word is adarat. Adar means respect. One should chant with affectionate respect. This is really beautiful what he says. He said, chant with affectionate respect. The best way to chant with affectionate respect is to chant with sincere eagerness, visibly manifest with tears in eyes, desperately when other efforts have failed. These are tears of an awakened soul. It is only possible when one is absolutely convinced of the necessity of this Krishna consciousness for the soul. We have to be convinced that this is what I need. Otherwise, our efforts will be half-hearted. Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu, he gave a very deep seminar on bhakti, and after that, one devotee approached him and said, Prabhu, why do I have to perform bhakti with intensity? Why do I have to put my heart in it? Why can I not do other things that I like to do and then also perform bhakti on the side? Which is a fair question, and I think which is where many of us are right now. And Gopi Paranadhanu Prabhu said, now he does not mean to be heavy, but he wanted to make a point. He said, if you cannot put your heart in Krishna consciousness and bhakti, then do something that you can put your heart into. And what he meant to say was not that you leave Krishna consciousness if you cannot put your heart into it, but he said that he meant that you have to try to put your heart. You have to understand the necessity. And that's what Satchidanand Swami is saying, that it is only possible when one is absolutely convinced of this necessity. Because otherwise we won't really put any conscious efforts. It will just be a ritual. Coming every day, standing in front of the deities, it's a ritual. It becomes a ritual that, okay, these are the deities, you see them, you sing, you go home. But if you put the heart in the process, you see that every day I'm coming to meet a very intimate friend. Every day I'm coming to meet my Lord, my Master, my beloved, and it's such a beautiful feeling when you get to meet someone you love every single day. And that is the goal, that is what we want to achieve, that is what we want to aspire for. And so we have to be convinced that this is what I need, this is the need of my soul, this is my purpose in this life. Brahma Jigyasa, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. The purpose of human life is to inquire into the absolute truth. So if we are not convinced, we won't put in proper efforts. So we must try to be convinced, and to be convinced we must read more, chant more, listen more, spend time with people who are convinced. Now, and therefore Gunashraya is really, really important. Kapil Dev is mentioning it. That is the significance of Gunashraya, taking shelter of the qualities, pastimes of Krishna, so that we may develop some affection for Krishna, and so that we may be able to ultimately take Namashraya, the shelter of the holy names. Now, yeah, I'm coming to a conclusion, just ending up. So, the verses that we read today, they end. Can we go to verse 34 to 36? Now here, when I was reading this, I like to think that Kapil Dev at this point in these verses, when these are his final instructions, then he starts summarizing what he said. But this verse is his final instruction. And when I was reading this, I like to think that Kapil Dev is now overcome with compassion for the living entities, because he can see that although he has said that, gather whatever emotion you can, worship the Lord, perform devotional service, he can see that people are suffering, he can see people are fallen, he can see that people are deeply attached to their families, their bodies, to everything that they do. And so he says these words, that by performing fruitive activities, sacrifices, charity, austerities, yoga, Vedic literatures, philosophical research, control the mind, subduing the senses, accepting the renounced order of life, performing prescribed duties, by performing the different divisions of yoga, devotional service, exhibiting the processes of devotional service, containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, understanding self-realization, developing strong sense of detachment. One who is expert in understanding the different processes of self-realization realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's saying, do whatever pleases you, all these processes. Because he understands people won't be able to give their heart to bhakti, won't be able to gather emotions, won't be able to surrender. So he says, he's overcome by compassion, and he's saying, do whatever you can, but do it. At least try to do it with a thought of Krishna. Understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, one must perform all these activities mixed with devotional service. We cannot perform pure devotional service. It's very tough, it's very difficult. So do whatever you are doing, whatever attracts you, but mix it with devotional service. Otherwise, such activities will not produce any fruit. any prescribed activity must be performed for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So a thought of Krishna in whatever we do will ultimately help us, because bhakti is so powerful that it will, even though it's mixed, if it's 1% and 99% is other endeavors, that 1% will gradually expand and take over. That's what happened in the story of Dhruva. His 99%, he wanted a kingdom for himself. He wanted a big kingdom. He wanted to show his family, his parents that, I can achieve this. He was insulted. He was acting out of ego. But that 1% was that thought of meditating on Krishna, meditating on Vishnu, and that took over. And when Krishna appeared, he was so purified, he was so embarrassed that I was looking for glass when I had this time. And, so mix it with bhakti. Anything, any effort, mix it with bhakti. But gradually bhakti will take over. And Prabhupada says, a hungry man feels strength and satisfaction from eating. And the same time he gradually becomes detached from eating. Similarly, with the execution of devotional service, real knowledge develops and one becomes detached from material activities. In no other activity but devotional service is there such detachment from matter and attachment for the Supreme. So, this is the conclusion. Do whatever you do. Even Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yat karoshi yad ashnasi. Whatever you do it with a thought of me. Offer it to me. At least this much we can try to do. And ultimately, hopefully, someday we will be able to develop some emotions, some love, some real affection for the Lord, where we will be able to chant attentively. It won't be an instruction anymore that you have to chant. Naturally, when you think of a beloved, you pay attention to that thought because you are deeply in love with that person. And so the thought that Krishna is God and I should worship him will go away. The only thought will be that this person is so beautiful, so loving, let me love him no matter he is God or not. And Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, I'll end with this beautiful prayer that Raghunath Das Goswami says in article he wrote called Swaniyama Dashakam, that 10 rules that I vow to follow in my life. And one of the rules he says, which is beautiful, the highest degree of love of God, where you forget that he is God. Raghunath Das Goswami expresses, he says, beginningless or with a beginning, cruel or very gentle, merciful at every moment or merciless, greater than the king of Mahavakunta or an ordinary human being, I don't care. The son of Vraja's king, Sri Krishna, is my Lord birth after birth. So he has achieved, he has reached that stage. He doesn't care who Krishna is, whether he's God or not, or he's a normal human. He says he will be my Lord birth after birth. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions? We probably have a couple minutes. Okay, one question. Kaylee.
I was really appreciating this this talk, and I was thinking about Srila Prabhupada saying that everything we do is a zero if we don't have Krishna in the front, and when we add Krishna in the front, that's that one. And we've been talking about this theme has been coming up so much lately about how to put Krishna in the center or put Krishna into it. And we were talking yesterday about how no matter your situation, think of it as good, because it's an opportunity to surrender to Krishna or to find Krishna in that situation, some way, shape, or form. So if our heart is hard, good. That means I can pray harder. I can beg Krishna more to soften my heart. Good, And so, anyways, this trying to find how to use a situation for Krishna's best interest.
Very much so.
I was really thinking that this class really added to that. So thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
No, thank you for saying that. I have been feeling this way, and I've had this realization that I think it's actually very beautiful when you are aware of your stone heart, or that your heart is so hard, steel-framed heart, Bhagavatam says, you cannot cry. It seems like a disqualification, but actually it's so beautiful when you become aware of it. When you are aware that I don't have any feeling, my heart is hard-hearted, because then you can pray, you can beg, you know where you are, and you know where you have to go, and you know how far it is. But it's a beautiful process of being aware of your fallen condition. It really, I think it's inspiring in many ways. It's like there's so much to work on. Yes, Prabhu.
So why does it feel like it comes in patches? Like you feel very soft, your heart feels surrender, and then suddenly it feels hard, and then so there are patches. It does not feel always the same way.
It's not always constant. Well, there can be many reasons. There can be at different times we have different realizations. It is also humility to consider oneself as hard-hearted. So even though, sometimes when we are in a particular situation, in a particular spiritual mood, we feel very soft-hearted, we feel very melted, we may cry, and then sometimes we are overtaken by humility, feelings of humility, and you may think, oh, my heart is so hard-hearted. And also there's an example that sometimes devotees feel after many years that there is no change in my heart. It has not become soft. But the example is that, it's like a wall which has been infested with mites, and they eat up the internal parts, right? And then externally it appears hard and solid, but internally it has softened. And so after many years it appears externally that my heart is so hard, but it's working. Inside it's become soft. So that's why that, yes, Mataji.
There's an old saying, little drops of water wear away a stone.
Yep. It's persistence. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
Question. I just want to say, Hare Krishna, thank you. This was so beautiful, and I feel like I have a lot of thoughts and reflections. But I'm curious as to what in this translation it is saying. One realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as He is represented in the material world, as well as in transcendence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that extra, line there mean? Because oftentimes we see, talking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, understanding, it'll just end right at the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So why is this part added, as He is represented in transcendence? What does that mean?
I think that's a nice observation. I think, and please feel free to add if anyone else has any thoughts, but I feel what this means is that when Krishna appears in the material world, or when He performs His pastimes here, there may be a certain understanding, or there may be a certain realization about that, and then His divine qualities, His His transcendental features are hidden, are not expressed, like His all-pervasiveness, and He's the Lord of all the universes. His transcendental features, that knowledge about Him being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is hidden when He performs pastimes in this material world. In this material world, He's only seen as a friend, as a lover, as someone you are attracted to. Sometimes people have envy towards Krishna, so those different feelings. So I think what this means is that you understand Krishna as a, complete, ultimately, when you progress. So you have a holistic understanding of Krishna. You have a knowledge of His divine qualities, His, Him being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you also have an understanding of Him being the beautiful son of Nanda Maharaj, and his pastimes on this planet. So that's what I think.
We just also got done hearing about the position of a materialist and how they are seeing material world and how they're trying to extract sense gratification out of the material world and even through religion. And so I believe Kapilya Dev is saying that the devotee, though, is seeing the material world different. They're seeing it as it represented by Krishna. So it's giving the total opposite end of, here's what a karmi's doing, here's what a materialist, but here the devotee's seeing Krishna in the material world in this way.
Yeah, he's represented in the material world. So, how is Krishna represented in the material world? Through his energies, mostly indirectly. That is another understanding, right?
Yeah.
His devotees, so.
Yeah, a thought I had was because this is talking about all the things that we can do. One can do kind of material activities mixed with bhakti.
Yes.
So I feel like this is the way that we can understand him in this material world as he appears here. But devotees who can just be absorbed in that love, they can understand Krishna in the spiritual realm. And so it feels like that,
Yes,
this is how we can understand him.
I think that's right, yeah.
Thank
Nice observation. Thank you. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Kirtana Ganana Vainam Gaye Gorachana Madhu Hare Nam gaye gorachana madhu sare Nam gaye gorachana madhu sare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Vainam Gaye Gorachana Madhu Sare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bone Thak Dada Hari Bole Dak Ihe Thak Bone Thak Dada Hari Bole Dak Ke Dukhe Nanak Rama Rama